Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. I would have lost it just on the grounds of the neighbor not saying please and demanding things in my own house. OP handled it much better than I would have. Bravo. More about this story right after a short pause. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. It has to be in a glass. This happened several years ago. There's a new neighbor lady who'd recently moved into the neighborhood. She later became notorious for borrowing money and household items and never returning them. But this was early on, before most of us caught on to what kind of person she was. This particular incident was what opened my eyes to her. So it's a warm Saturday evening and neighbor lady knocks on my back door. NL is neighbor lady, me is me. NL: Hey, do you have any beer? Me, thinking she wants to have a beer and chat for a while. Sure, come on in, have a seat. I gesture to the kitchen table. NL: Well, actually, I'm kind of in a hurry right now. I just wanted a beer to take with me, if that's okay. She said the last sentence in a way that implied it ought to be okay, and I thought the whole request was a bit rude. But I was like, well, all right, and went to the refrigerator. Now, I have two kinds of beer in the fridge, regular beer in cans and expensive beer in bottles. I pulled out a can for her, but unfortunately, she could see the bottles also. NL: No, I want expensive beer. It has to be in a bottle. For some reason, possibly shock at the extent of her petulant demands, I swapped out the can for a bottle. Before I even handed to her, NL: I need a glass for that too. At this point, I'm getting really irritated and I just want her to leave. So I put the beer on the kitchen counter and pull a red plastic beer cup out of the cupboard. NL: No plastic, it has to be a glass. She then marches over to a glass-fronted cabinet where I keep sets of nicer beer mugs and wine glasses for company and special occasions, opens the cabinet herself, and pulls out a particularly good beer stein. NL: I want it in this glass. That was my breaking point. Me: Okay, hand me the glass. She does with a pleased, expectant look like I'm actually going to pour the freaking beer for her. I set the glass on the counter. Me: I've changed my mind. I'm not giving you a beer. Get out of my house. NL, frowning, puzzled expression. Me: GTFO, now! I point at the door. NL's expression shifted from frowning confusion to open-mouthed disbelief, then morphed rapidly into complete and utter rage. She started screaming about what a horrible, selfish, greedy, stingy, nasty person I was, and how, since I'd already offered her a beer, it was like stealing to take it back, and that I'd better never ask her for any help. Wasn't planning to, and gave me the finger before slamming the door behind her. Needless to say, I didn't have much to do with her after that, except the occasional passing exchange of disapproving glares. She eventually alienated pretty much the entire neighborhood with her ungrateful freeloading, and thankfully moved away last summer. Looking back, I think she was actually just trying to steal a nice glass. And you would have never seen that beer stein again. And our second story. Became the face of a city department, then left for another job. But people still recognized me and demanded that I fix their problems now. So I used to work for the same city that I lived in and still live in. As part of working for the city, my department would do a bunch of public outreach, which I absolutely loved and often volunteered to do. I really enjoyed engaging with kids because they genuinely seemed interested in answering questions from residents. Doing outreach was the highlight to what was a pretty boring job. Keep in mind, doing public outreach often meant working extra nights or weekends. I was salaried and didn't get paid extra for the extra work. I just loved doing it. I worked for the city for over 10 years. That's a long time, where I pretty much became the face of my department. I also got married and had 2 kids along the way. Working extra got harder with the family, but at that point I was committed. It was also long enough that a different city snagged me to run their department. I became 100% committed to the new city and 0% committed to my former city overnight. I was fairly relieved that I wouldn't have to be the public outreach face anymore, I had someone for that now, more time for family. But I never moved from where I lived. People still recognized me when I did grocery shopping or stood in line at the bank. I was their inside connection to bypass the bureaucracy. I got used to always having business cards with me. Got a problem with your trash pickup? Got a problem with overhanging trees? Your neighbor's grass is too high? See me at Starbucks on a Saturday? Just ask away. I'll get it to the right people. This got old and quite annoying fast. So let's fast forward about 2 years after I'd already moved on. I was having a very bad day. This particular day was especially bad for reasons I don't want to get into. I got home fairly late and decided to take the family out for dinner rather than cook. I was tired and admittedly cranky. We were waiting for our table when someone recognized me. I could immediately tell that it's more of a I need you to fix my problem rather than a simple I recognized you from somewhere when she made eye contact, smiled, quickly frowned, then walked straight to me. She started complaining about a neighbor's dog and tall grass. Then her husband chimed in. Apparently, they called about it several times, but it never got resolved. It was somehow my fault. They demanded that I do something about it immediately because their tax dollars were paying my salary. They wanted me to pull out my phone and send an email now, or they'd complain about me because they knew the mayor. Remember, I was cranky, I was hungry, I had a major headache. I especially hated that tax dollar line. Holy heck, I hated when they mayor dropped. I had a blow-up moment. I don't remember the exact words, but it went something along the lines of, I don't work for the city anymore, but even if I still did, it doesn't entitle them to harass me at all hours of the day. I still had friends in the city and could have helped them if they were decent people, but forget it. Add a few expletives. My wife gave me a hard time after we were seated for not being nice, but the food tasted especially good that evening. It's so stupid when people say their taxes pay your salary as if you don't pay taxes. And our next story. You can take this candle and... I work in a strip mall. The collection of stores consists of very few name brand places with several mom and pop style stores that provide a number of obscure and unexpected services. While I work in one of the actual retail chains, this one comes from one of our across the hall neighbors, an aromatherapy/candle store, one of the mom and pop businesses. Business is carrying on as usual for them, which is to say, actually quite brisk. Of course, the problem customer arrives, a middle-aged man looking for dinner candles. However, the request quickly becomes incredibly specific. He's looking for red candles that are exactly 7 inches, pointed, and were packaged in a way that displayed dinners with wine on the little cardboard thing. Now, with something that esoteric, the cashiers went ahead and checked around. However, in the back room, the owner was taking some stock and gave the cashier in the back room the news. They've never sold 7-inch candles like that. It was all for aromatherapy stuff and 9 and 10-inch candles. The only tall ones they had were scented, too. The cashier returned with a set of red candles which had been shrink-wrapped, not factory-produced or anything, and the customer actually gets insulted. They could not be above 7 inches and could not be scented. He then insisted that the candle store was the last place he'd gotten them a few years back. He starts to get irate, slapping his hands on the countertops for each syllable and getting louder. Like doing so will somehow make these candles materialize or make the cashiers realize they're wrong in some way for these things not existing. He gets increasingly angrier, reducing the small store's registers to 1 instead of 2 as he occupies 1 and refuses to move unless he gets these very specific 7-inch red dinner candles with the picture on the front. No, I got them here. This was the only place I got them. The supervisor gets involved. He tries to explain the only thing they have are the ones the cashier brought up. The man falls back on his previous argument of, no, I know I got them here, and in general, being so flustered it's making customers leave the store. This carries on for almost 2 hours. 2 hours! Every cashier's been involved, and the supervisor. Even we, across the way, can see this as it unfolds through the glass windows. Finally, another guy comes up from behind all the other customers behind the register with a set of the red candles. He asks the cashier for a ruler, measures them out, and bites the flat ends off. He slams them down onto the counter and yells, "Here's your effing candles!" Now, since I know you can take more than 7 inches back there when the stick is out, take 'em and get out. The candlebiter storms out in a huff, swearing up a storm. The guy turns back to the cashier group and gets really pissed. He screams at them as if they've wronged him somehow. I want to talk to your owner. The supervisor shrugs, bewildered, and says, you just did. And our last story. Karen demands money. This story was just texted to me from my kid's dad, Jack. Jack works in a large casino here in Vegas in the poker room. He gets a call from one of his regulars saying his friend is there in the poker room and it's his birthday and he wants to use his casino credit to give his friend $1,500 in chips since it's his birthday. Jack says okay and knows the guy he's talking about as he's a regular too, so Jack gets approved to also give him $500 in comp chips. Jack goes over to the table and informed the guy he was being given $2,000 for his birthday. Suddenly, a lady at the table pipes up and says, what about the rest of us? Specifically, what about me? My birthday's in 2 weeks. Call the friend back and see if he'll give us all $1,500. Jack tells her he won't do that, so she then says that they should get the $500 from the casino then. Jack told her if she comes in on her birthday, he'll see what he can do based on her gambling habits there at the casino. She tells him, this is my first time here. I can't come back for my birthday because I'm from Canada, and I'm only here for a couple of days. But since my birthday's so close, you should at least give me the $500 if not giving it to everyone at the table. Jack explained comps like that are for regulars and big spenders. She gets mad and starts yelling at him about how much money she spent on her hotel room and how much money she spent in the casino on this trip. Not a lot compared to what actual big spenders spend at this high-class casino. Jack asked her to calm down and stop causing a scene. She continued to yell and suddenly brought out the, I'm going to get you fired. Do you know who I am? I know the owner. To which Jack called security and had her escorted out of the poker room and banned her. She actually tried to smack the security guard, so she was told to get her stuff out of her room and find another place to stay as she was now banned from the whole resort. Really smart, Karen, to yell that in a casino. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.